Yo, what is poppin'? All my delinquents and degenerates. It's your boy Tony, and you already know the deal. Yo, we have topics today and story time. So, this story time's gonna be crazy, but hey, first and foremost, before we get into any of this story time, right? Yo, run the like button up and the subscribe button. We're almost to 100 subscribers, guys. Yo, we're gonna be doing our first giveaway, our first cash giveaway at 3,000 subscribers. Yo, help me get there. Run that shit up. The algorithm, yo, it's waiting right there for us. And yo, my money's waiting for your pockets if you get me there. But on this fateful day, it was 2016, right? And in 2016, I was a big music artist, and what I mean is, like, yeah, my music had some good traction. Like, if you check out my SoundCloud and you check out, my older alias, I now have a new alias, but if you check out my old rap name in my music, you guys will see that the numbers were pushing pretty good. And so, around this time, I was doing a lot of concerts, and I was having fun with my life. I was meeting new people, and I was networking heavy. And also around the same time I was making music, I was also getting in a lot of trouble because I used to be pushing packs heavy. Let me tell you, your boy was Slick Ricky. Shit. But yeah, so I used to push packs, and on this fateful day, and I remember, right, I woke up in the morning and it was about 7:30. Me, I've always been an early bird. Always, always. I've been getting up early since I can remember. Unless it was in my peak degeneracy when I was like in my active addiction. I would wake up at like 1 o'clock, or sometimes I wouldn't even go to bed. But yeah, sorry about that, guys. Had to clear my throat a little bit, but yeah. So I woke up in the morning, and the only thing I ever knew was music and pushing packs, right? So I would wake up and I would check my phone, see if anybody needed me to get anything ready for the day, and then I would set up my studio equipment and I would start making tracks. Whether I had a beat that I got from somebody, whether I leased from online, or whether I pulled from YouTube, I was always making music. And shit, I stopped making music because of a serious situation, but we're gonna leave that story time for another day because it's a pretty good one too. But yeah, so I started making music and doing my thing, and I was pushing out a track that evening. So, with me, I like to put out tracks that I made that same day because my talent in making music was just good, and it still is. Shit, I could freestyle. Sheesh. Yeah, so I was making music, getting stuff ready for people that I needed to meet up with, and this and that, and the third dot dot dot, and I met up with one of my boys, and shit, we're gonna call him. Just for the sake of the video and his like personal identity, we're gonna call him Alex, right? And so, I met up with Alex, and I served him up, gave him what he needed, and I went back to my house because I used to live at my mom's. And so, started making music, started doing my thing, and a couple other people hit me up, and I was like, bet, let me finish this track real quick, and I'll get to you guys when I get to you guys. And so, finished making the track, and I met up with a couple other people, right? And I served them up and I dipped. So, everything went well, and a little bit of time goes by, and I get a message from one of my homies. He's like, "Hey, yo, bro, can you serve up my cousin?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I got you." And so, I got some things ready. They let me know what they needed, this, that, and the third. And so, I went up to meet up with the dude, and so when I pulled up, right, and mind you, I'm on the south side, and dude lived on the east side, so it was a little bit of a drive. And dude texted me because I got the number from his cousin. He was like, "Hey, yo, bro, I'm gonna be here, this, that, and the third." And I was like, "Bet." So I went out that way, met up with dude. But when I pulled up, I mean, it was a pretty small house. It was a little house, but there was a black Chrysler with some crazy looking rims in the driveway, right? And I was like, "Oh shit, this is a nice car." And me, I don't know what it is about Chryslers, but Chryslers are like the ghetto man's Mercedes. Let me tell you. I don't know what about a Chrysler 300 was just appealing to me, but I always wanted one of those, you know. And he had one of those, and so I texted him like, "Hey, yo, I'm outside," and he's like, "Bet." So comes outside, and we get to talking, do our thing, and then this. I'm not gonna say this guy looks sketchy, but he definitely stood out from anybody that I knew at the time, right? He always had this like Gucci shawl on. He had a Hermes belt buckle. He had like these expensive pants on. I couldn't tell you the brand, but they looked very expensive. And he had these sunglasses on, and he had a chain and all that. And so little did I know, we got to talking, and little did I know he also makes music. So I'm like, no shit. So, and you know what? We're gonna call this guy Gemini for the sake of the video also. But so, found out he was making music, and he showed me some of his tracks, and I was like, yo, like this is actually really fire. Like, okay, so when you're an artist, right, you have like a certain perception of your music. You think, oh, I'm the best artist in the world. With me, you guys can check out my tracks. My tracks speak for themselves. I'm not going to say anything about it, but they're very, very well. They're well put together. That's all I can really say about them. But his tracks were very catchy, and they were really amazing. And he had some foot inside of the game. Like he had a foot in the game, and like a little bit more than I did. And I had a good following. I had good networking, but he had a little bit of more that I didn't. And so, like I ended up serving him up, and after we got talking and stuff, he just wanted to see, like, I guess what the product looked like, cuz the boy was pushing packs himself, but I guess he heard a little bit about me from someone else, and I guess he was building a team. And I thought it was going to be, a team for music and this and that and the third. So little did I know, like, a lot of this was set up from the jump, because my boy, he knew I was heavy into music, and he knew I was getting somewhere with this. So shout out to him, because he linked me up with a good friend at the end of the day. And I had a new friend. But anyway, so we started talking about music, this, that, and the third, dot, dot, dot. And so he was building the team, and he's like, "Hey, bro, you want to make music with us?" And I was like, I'm down, and he had this record label, or this, he had this thought in his mind of, something being called Vision Green Entertainment, right? And it was him, it was one of his other boys. I'm gonna just say King, because I'm not gonna mention anybody's name. So it's Gemini King. um yeah, and there was this, I didn't really know him, but there was this other Puerto Rican dude, and we linked up because I'm half Puerto Rican and American, so but he's full Puerto Rican, so we had a lot to talk about on some of those things. And then yeah, so built this team together, and then we started rapping, and little did I know he was like pushing packs heavy, heavy, like big packs. And so we got into that, but it was kind of crazy. So learning more about this gentleman, he basically he had a rough upbringing. His dad was basically locked up his whole life, and his mom, I think his mom passed, if I'm not mistaken. And the only one who really was there for him was his grandmother. But his grandmother was, getting kind of tired of his bullshit. At the same time, my mom's at the time was getting tired of my bullshit. So we really just linked up, and as friends do, talk about your problems, and just get, I guess, just get comfortable with each other. But shit. So what's kind of crazy about it, right? Something happened, and he had to get rid of his Chrysler. And okay, so all of this isn't like indirect, indirect, like timeline. I was just telling you how I started my day on that day that I met him, and then we're just gonna get into a couple of other things. But yo, other videos are gonna talk about specific situations, and not in specific detail, but so you guys know, like, some points of the timeline. But yeah, so something happened, and this was like months later, and he had to switch his Chrysler out, right? And he ended up getting a Mercedes, and it was pretty fucking cool. I'm not gonna lie. Like the Mercedes had a couple of things wrong with it, but it was still a really fucking cool car. It was like a cherry reddish maroonish. I can't really explain it, but it was a color that I haven't really seen before on a car. And something had just happened, and he got in like a lot of big trouble with the law, right? And so basically, he had to like lay low and stop pushing packs for a while. And so things were going wrong. He couldn't make his car payments. A lot of shit was going wrong on his end. Like his girl was keeping his kid from him, and it was a pretty crazy situation, you know. And throughout this whole time, you know, I'm living my life. I was pushing still, you know, and I was giving him money here and there to, you know, help him out with some things because that's what boys do, you know. Like if you're pushing, don't. And I'm not encouraging this. This is literally just, you know, my thoughts. But if you're pushing and you know you have really close homies and they're going through something and you know you're cashing out, break some bread with the boys. Even if you know you're not gonna get it back, you know you could really change someone's life. You could really help them from. You can prevent them from that one little thing from them leading them on the street. And I wish I had a friend like me when I was going through it, you know, because honestly, even at the end of the day, this gentleman that I'm talking about, he didn't really help me or do nothing for me. You know, at the end of the day, there was people looking for me because of him. But yeah, so you know, something happened, this and that. You know, breaking bread with the boy, and you know, things were going okay. You know, still doing my thing, and he hit me up one day because his Mercedes broke down, and he was like, "Hey, bro," he was like, "Can you drop me off somewhere?" And I was like, "Yeah, bro, I got you," you know. And so what's crazy about it was this was about I want to say noonish. And so I was like, "Yeah, I got you, bro. I'll drop you off." And so you know, I went from the south side to the east side, and I picked him up, and he gave me like you know a general. Uh, excuse me, sorry, sorry. I'm drinking this damn nitro cold brew coffee, but he gave me a general area of where this place was gonna be. So you know, I started driving that direction, and then he pulled up an address that he got from I guess someone who sent him a text message, and I was like, "Yo, bro, where are we going right now?" He's like, "Shit, bro, I got invited to something," but he couldn't tell me what it was, right? And I was like, "Shit, like, say less." You know, I'm one of those boys that just ride. Like, if one of my homies call me up and they're like, "Hey, bro, I got a situation, but I can't really tell you about it," I'm gonna ride with them, you know, because I know if I had a situation and I needed them, I can call them up and I can be like, "Hey, yo, bro, you know, like, let's ride," and they'll ride. But so you know, we go to this place and already off the bat, guys, I already knew what this was about because it had that like weird protractor symbol, and then it had you know the G in the middle of it, and it was a lounge. You know, it was a Mason lounge, guys. And he couldn't tell me a lot about it. He just said that he was invited to join or something like that, and you know he had to go to this lounge and I guess do a meeting. And around the same time, right? I was just waiting outside for like a good while before, you know, I realized he wasn't gonna come out after he went in. And so I was like, okay, bet he's just gonna, you know, hit me up and let me know when he's out if that's the case. So, you know, I went to like this little nearby burrito stand and I got something to eat real quick. And like maybe 2 hours later he hit me up and he was like, "Hey, yo, bro, I'm done this and that, right?" And when he left, I don't know what it was, guys, but after he left that lounge, something just felt off. And you know, I don't want to say it was like demonic or like a dark presence, but just something felt off. Like I don't know what it was, but I just like looked in my homie's eyes and was just like looked in Gemini's eyes and was like thinking to myself like his life's gonna change. I don't know what it was, but sorry guys, I have a little bit of anxiety today. I don't know why talking about this is is wild. Maybe it's just cold in my house because my wife likes to run the air at 69 degrees. But yeah, so it just felt like something was changing for sure. And so, you know, he got back in the whip and I guess they gave him like a couple of like some things in a manila envelope and then he had like this little white I don't know if it was like a white rag that they gave him or something or like a I can't really tell you, but you know, long story short, you know, a couple of more days went by, and every single day he went to this lounge. And, you know, every single day he came out of the lounge, he just seemed like a different person. And, you know, like he basically got off of being in trouble. You know, he started, you know, doing his thing again, flipping packs again, but he stopped smoking. He stopped doing any type of substance. And mind you, like we used to do substance together. And he just like he was on the very brink, guys, of being on the street, on the verge of losing everything, guys. And I don't know what that lounge did for him, but long story short, now, right, the same gentleman owns a whole town, California, owns a few Airbnbs, and he has a Maserati, he has a Lambo, and all kinds of shit. Okay, my bad, guys. I'm getting off topic, but so I don't know what the lounges did for him, but some time went by. He ended up moving to California, and that's when he started. I guess I don't know how he got the money, but he started investing in all of these things. And then his dad gets out of being locked up, and I guess his dad was someone that was investing in him also. So that's very good. That his dad looked out for him. But long story short, we don't really talk much anymore, like at all. Like I haven't talked to this guy in years. But from what I've seen on Instagram, or from what I've seen before I like deleted my Facebook, he looks like he was doing really well. So all I could do is just keep sending blessings that way, and yeah, hope he just does something good. And I guess why I stopped talking to the dude was because like after all some time passed, I got out of making music. I also got in trouble, had to stop pushing packs, and this was already after like months and months he already had moved to California, right? And so I remember I was like in my peak active addiction, and I was just getting out of rehab the first time. And I just remember, right, I had been staying in a hotel for like the first week after I got out of rehab with a couple of boys. And I remember I was going to one of my appointments to get on mat services, and I was at the bus stop, and I seen him rolling through in a truck, right, a really nice truck. And he was like, "Oh damn, is that Willie T?" Because that used to be my rap name. And then so I went to the truck, and I was like, "Damn, what the heck, bro? Like you look like you're doing really well." And I was like, "Hey yo, bro, Loki, like I just gotta go to an appointment right here. You think you could drop me off at my appointment? It's like maybe 20 minutes away." And he said, "Nah, bro, I'm busy right now." And said, "But I hope you have a good day," and dipped out. And don't get me wrong, like he didn't look busy, guys. He just looked like I was out of his way. You get me? And I guess that's the day that I was like, "Nah, I'm all good with that." And that's what this one of the days we just stopped talking. And I never wanted to hate on the dude, or I never wanted to like have bad blood with them, because I always just send blessings. Like if you're my homie, or you're not my homie, or you did me wrong or something, I'm gonna still send you some blessings. I'm just not gonna talk to you anymore. And so basically this is the story, guys, and that's what it was about. I know there was a lot of key factors and timeline points that were missing, but I wanted to get to like the gist of you know how the day started, what I used to do, how we linked up, and what happened in that time. Because the video is just slow, like solely on that guy, or solely about the guy. Sorry about that. I couldn't wrap my brain around it. But yeah. So yo, it's crazy. I can't say like real names or anything out there, but I only say his name is Gemini because he was a Gemini, like his sign. So yo, if you're listening to this, Gemini, yo, much blessings, bro, and I hope everything's still going good. And shit, bro, I'm still here. I'm still here in Arizona. But yo, Ten Toes family, thank you guys very very much. And this story time was kind of crazy, but I'm getting new to the story time, and I have a lot of like stories that I want to share with you guys because I've been through a lot. But if it was a little everywhere, sorry guys. I have ADHD and I don't take medication for it. And none of this is scripted, guys. This is just off of like pure memory. You get me? Because it was a good but a bad time in my life, and a lot of pros and cons around that time. But yeah, that's what it was about, guys. Yo, you can check out my music, guys, if you want to. It's my old music. It doesn't hold any value anymore, but I'll go ahead and pin the little thing right here, and you guys can check it out when you want. Also, guys, we got a reaction video tomorrow, and yo, the reaction video has been going crazy lately. You guys been enjoying those, so thank you for tuning in. But much love, Tento's family. Get me to 3,000 subscribers, guys. We're gonna be doing cash giveaways at 3K subs. That's what's crazy. And it doesn't cost anything. It's free to you guys, and it shows a little love and a little bit of my money in your pockets. So, yo, get on the subscription and, just hit that button. You don't got to pay. You got to hit that shit. Hit that shit and have a good time. But much love, Tento's family, and on to the next one.